Trust. That was everything to me. Not money, not chemistry, not even love, not really. Because love without trust was just pretty words over a hollow core. And I believed with everything in me that I had found someone I could trust with my entire life. My name is Vincent. I'm 31 years old and I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a paramedic, long hours, night shifts, adrenaline spikes followed by long stretches of silence. It's a job that forces you to see the worst in people, but I never let that bleed into my personal life. Especially not with Nora. Nora and I met 5 years ago at this little poetry reading at a hole-in-the-wall cafe called Ink and Steam. I was just there for the coffee, honestly. I didn't even know they had readings on Thursdays. But she walked on stage in a vintage denim jacket, tucked a piece of hair behind her ear, and read a poem about the space between raindrops. And somehow in that moment I felt like I already knew her. After the reading, I asked if she wanted to grab a drink. She laughed and said, "I don't usually talk to guys who look like they fix fire hydrants." I told her I was actually a paramedic, not a plumber, and she said that was worse. "You probably live off protein bars and trauma." That made me laugh harder than I'd laughed in months. Our first date was the next day. We talked for hours. She told me about her love for Sylvia Plath, her aversion to dill pickles, and how she used to write her dreams down in a notebook titled Brain Static. I told her about my chaotic work life, my obsession with local pizza places, and my habit of reading Wikipedia before bed. We weren't perfect, but we just fit. Over time, things got serious. Weekends turned into weeknights. She started leaving a toothbrush at my place, then drawers full of clothes. Eventually, she practically lived with me. We never made a big deal about it, we just fell into step like a well-rehearsed dance. And Nora, she was open in a way I wasn't used to. Candid. She'd tell me when something bothered her, never sugar-coated anything. She'd hold my face when I got home from a long shift and ask, "Did someone die today?" Not because she wanted the details, but because she wanted to carry some of it with me. I never felt like I had to doubt her. She had guy friends, I didn't care. She had nights where she needed space, I respected it. Because she was honest. Always honest. And after seeing so much dishonesty in the world, that meant everything to me. We got engaged last fall. Just a quiet moment in our apartment, no grand gesture, no ring hidden in dessert. I just asked, "Do you want to build the rest of your life with me?" And she said, "I thought we already were." It felt like the most natural thing in the world. We were planning a spring wedding. Nothing fancy. Just our closest people, a backyard, maybe tacos instead of a plated meal. I imagined growing old with her, carrying her bags when she got tired, reading side by side in silence. I had no doubts. Not a single one. Looking back now, I wonder if that was my mistake, believing that trust, once earned, was permanent. I had built our relationship on a foundation I thought was solid. Turns out I never saw the cracks forming beneath my feet. Weekends were our thing. Friday nights felt like a quiet promise. Nora would show up at my apartment around 6, kick off her shoes before she even made it to the couch, and toss her bag into the corner like she planned to stay forever. And for a while, it felt like she did. I had a spacious 2-bedroom near the Riverwalk, old wood floors, exposed brick, the kind of place that looked better at night when the string lights in the kitchen softened the chipped paint and uneven cabinets. She loved it. Said it reminded her of a photo album someone forgot to finish. We had a routine, unspoken but understood. I'd get takeout from her favorite Thai place, Pad Ki Mao, extra spicy, and she'd bring a bottle of red wine she picked up on her way over. We'd eat on the couch, legs tangled, background noise from whatever documentary we decided to half-watch. "God, this couch has a vendetta against my spine," she'd groan, adjusting a throw pillow. Then stop sitting like a raccoon in a laundry basket, I'd shoot back. She'd smirk and toss a peanut at me, always missing. Most weekends, she'd say she had to leave early Saturday, family brunch, yoga with friends, some volunteer gig. And I never questioned it. Nora was a busy person. She had her own life. I respected that. She'd kiss me goodbye in the mornings, sometimes while I was still half asleep, whispering, "Don't forget to eat something real today," like I was 5. I'd mumble a response, grab her hand briefly, and fall back asleep to the faint scent of her shampoo lingering on my pillow. And every time she walked out that door, I felt steady. Safe. Like we were building something real. Something permanent. Her toothbrush in my bathroom, her books slowly migrating onto my shelves, her favorite mug always in the drying rack, it all added up to something that felt solid. I didn't think twice about the vague plans or early departures. I didn't count hours or question locations. Why would I? She made me feel chosen. Like no one else mattered. And when you love someone like that, you don't look for shadows where there's light. That was the thing about Nora, she made everything feel effortless. Even her absence felt like part of a rhythm we both understood. I trusted her. Completely. Probably more than I should have. But when you're in it, you don't see the storm brewing. You just hear the quiet hum of the life you think you're building together. It was a Saturday night. Quiet, uneventful, the kind of night we used to call soft living. Nora had come over Friday as usual, Chinese takeout this time, her cheeks flushed from the cold. She wore my old college sweatshirt and joked about how it was now technically community property. I remember thinking I wanted to see her wear it forever. We spent the evening curled up on the couch watching a documentary about orcas of all things. Nora had her legs tucked under mine, a blanket over both of us. She was half watching, half scrolling through her phone, and I didn't mind. That was just her. Always multitasking. But something shifted about halfway through. Her phone kept lighting up, buzzing every couple of minutes. At first, I brushed it off. She had friends, group chats, probably memes. I wasn't the jealous type. I prided myself on that, actually. Trust was the cornerstone. If you didn't have that, what did you have? But then it buzzed again. And again. Same name each time, Theo. I knew Theo. At least, I thought I did. Nora had mentioned him before. He's just an old friend, she'd said once, nonchalant. We used to be close, but it's not like that. I hadn't thought much of it. Everyone has a past, right? Still, something about the frequency, the way she subtly tilted her phone away, the way her thumb moved faster than usual, it stirred something in me. Not full-blown suspicion. Just static. That low, uncomfortable hum you feel when something doesn't sit right. She got up to grab some water, left her phone face down on the armrest. It buzzed again. I glanced. One line lit up the screen. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same plan? I stared at it. My heart didn't race, not at first. It just slowed. Like my body was trying to delay what my brain was already piecing together. I picked up the phone. Unlocked it. We had the same password on our phones, something we both said was just in case. I don't think she ever expected me to use it. The thread was long. Days of messages. Weeks maybe? All threaded with inside jokes, playful banter, words no one uses with just a friend. Missed you last weekend. Your skin still smells like salt. I told her it was my cousin's wedding. She totally bought it. My breath caught in my throat. Cousin's wedding? Last Saturday. She told me she was visiting her mom in Madison. Another message. You always look so peaceful when you fall asleep in my arms. Makes it harder to leave. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This was a second life. The walls of my apartment, the one we called ours in passing, felt suddenly cold. Foreign. Like I'd stepped into someone else's home. When Nora came back with her glass of water, I was sitting there, phone in hand, documentary still playing in the background like some cruel joke. She didn't notice anything at first. Just sat down beside me and snuggled under the blanket. I didn't say a word. Not yet. My hands were cold. My thoughts even colder. She laughed at something on the screen. I stared straight ahead, barely breathing, already mourning the version of her I thought I knew. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just lay there, watching the ceiling, feeling the weight of every lie press against my chest. And beside me, Nora slept peacefully. Like her conscience didn't have a single wrinkle. The morning light slipped through the blinds like it didn't know the night had shattered everything. I was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor. Nora stirred beside me, letting out a small groan as she rolled over and reached for her phone on the nightstand. I watched her from the corner of my eye. She didn't notice anything different. She just stretched, yawned, and mumbled something about needing coffee. I didn't respond. She sat up and rubbed her eyes, then leaned over and kissed the side of my head. "Morning," she said. Her voice was soft. Familiar. It hurt. I nodded but said nothing. She didn't seem to notice my silence, or maybe she just chalked it up to me not being a morning person. She pulled on one of my flannel shirts and padded barefoot into the kitchen like she always did. I could hear the clink of mugs, the sound of the Keurig spitting to life. She came back a few minutes later with 2 coffees, set one beside me, and started folding the blanket from the couch. "I need to leave in a bit," she said casually. "Mom wants to hit the flea market early." I still didn't speak. My fingers were locked together, my jaw clenched tight. She glanced at me, finally catching the tension. "Hey," she said, half smiling, "you good?" I stood up. My heart was hammering in my chest, but I kept my voice level. "Good luck on your trip." She froze. The color drained from her face so fast it almost made me sick. "What?" she said, a forced laugh bubbling in her throat. "What trip?" I didn't answer. She blinked rapidly, her hands fumbling with the blanket she'd been folding. "Vincent, I don't know what you mean." "I told you, Ame. You told me a lot of things." She stared at me wide-eyed, mouth open. Words caught behind her teeth. The room was dead quiet except for the low gurgle of the coffee machine still finishing its cycle. Outside, the city was waking up. Inside, everything we had was falling apart in slow motion. I picked up her duffel bag from beside the door and held it out to her. You should go. She didn't take it. Please, just let me explain. I didn't answer. I opened the door. Nora stepped forward, reaching out like she might touch my arm, like that would somehow undo it all. But then she looked in my eyes, and I think she saw it, the switch had flipped. The door was open, and I was already gone. She stood there, blinking back whatever excuse she was about to make. I watched her for one last moment, barefoot, wearing my shirt, the woman I thought I knew, and then I closed the door. Quiet. Final. And on the other side of it, I exhaled. Not with relief. Not with closure. But with the first breath of someone who finally stopped pretending. Not 10 seconds after the door clicked shut, the knocking started. At first, it was timid. Just 3 soft taps, like she wasn't sure if she still had the right to be there. Then the panic crept in. Vincent, she called, her voice barely above a whisper. Can we talk? Please. I didn't move. She knocked again. Harder this time. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Still, I said nothing. I stood in the hallway, back pressed against the wall beside the door, fists clenched at my sides. I could hear her breathing through the wood, quick, uneven. Then came the crying. I messed up, she sobbed. God, I messed up. But it didn't mean anything. Theo doesn't mean anything. The words hit me like a slap, even through the barrier between us. She was scrambling, trying to shrink it, trying to twist the truth until it felt more palatable. That it was just a fling. Just a mistake. Just a moment. But I had read the messages. I saw the way she spoke to him, warm, playful, familiar. That wasn't meaningless. That was care. That was intention. I'll end it, she cried. I'll block him. I'll never see him again. Please just open the door. Still, I didn't answer. I wanted to. God, some part of me wanted to swing the door open and make sense of it. To believe that it really was a one-time thing. That she just got lost for a second and wanted to come home. But the silence on my end, that was my answer. I let the betrayal do the talking. She tried the doorknob once. Gave it a soft shake. Then, defeated, she slumped against it. I could feel her body pressing into the other side, her voice smaller now. I love you, she whispered. Please don't let this be the end. But it was. I sat down on the floor, leaned my head back against the wall, and listened to her cry. Her pain twisted inside me because I still loved her too. But love without truth? It wasn't love anymore. Her messages kept coming through my phone, long texts, apologies, desperate promises. I read every single one. But I never replied. That was the price of her silence, the night she should have told me the truth. Now she was the one sitting in the dark, waiting for a response that would never come. It had been 3 weeks. 3 weeks of unanswered texts, missed calls, silence I clung to like armor. I buried myself in work, extra shifts, back-to-back doubles. Anything to keep from thinking too long. Friends asked if I was okay. I said I was just tired. That wasn't a lie. Then one Thursday night, just as I was getting home after a 14-hour shift, she showed up. I recognized the knock. Soft, hesitant. Like she didn't want to wake a sleeping version of me that no longer existed. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there with my hand on the knob, forehead resting against the doorframe, heart pounding like I hadn't already lived this scene in my head 100 times. When I opened the door, she looked smaller. Same coat. Same nervous fingers twisting around the strap of her purse. But her face looked like it hadn't seen peace in days. Hi, she said, voice low and shaky. Can I talk to you? I stepped aside without a word. Let her in. She walked slowly like she didn't quite trust the floor beneath her. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. Waiting. She didn't sit. Just stood in the middle of the room, clutching her hands together. I've rehearsed this 1,000 times, she started, eyes flicking toward mine and then away again. But it never sounds right. I said nothing. She swallowed hard. I never meant for it to go that far. Theo, he's part of a life I thought I left behind. Someone who always made me feel safe. And I guess I went back because it was familiar. I was scared. Scared of what? I asked quietly. She looked down. Of how real everything got with you. Of messing it up. Of not being enough. I nodded slowly. Were you ever planning to tell me? She didn't answer. Nora, I said, firmer now, if I hadn't picked up your phone that night, would you have told me? She closed her eyes. That silence, that split second of stillness, told me everything. No, she whispered finally. I wasn't going to. And there it was. The final nail. All the apologies in the world couldn't patch over that kind of truth. Not when the person you trusted most had made the conscious choice to keep you in the dark. She could say she was sorry. She could cry and mean it. But if I hadn't found out on my own, she'd still be lying. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something break away quietly inside me. Not anger. Not even sadness. Just clarity. The version of us I had believed in, that version never really existed. And now neither did we. She stood there in the middle of my apartment, her hands trembling, her face pale, waiting for a reply that was never going to come. I stepped back from the counter and walked toward the door, slow and steady. Nora turned slightly, watching me like she was afraid of what I might say next. "I think we're done," I said. Her eyes widened. "Vincent, please, I raised a hand. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just final. "You made your choice," I said, voice low. "You just didn't expect me to find out." She blinked rapidly, her throat tightening like she wanted to say something but couldn't get it out fast enough. "I loved you," I said, and I meant it. But I can't do this with someone who looked me in the eye for months and lied. Who let me talk about forever while they were slipping away in pieces. Tears gathered at the corners of her eyes. "It didn't mean it. It meant enough to hide it," I interrupted. "That's all I need to know." I opened the door and stepped aside. "Please don't shut me out like this," she said, her voice barely holding together. "We can fix this." I shook my head. Trust doesn't get rebuilt on guilt and panic. She stood there for a few more seconds like she was waiting for me to change my mind. Then she stepped through the doorway and turned around. "I still love you," she said. "I know," I replied. "But that doesn't fix what's broken." And I closed the door. Not with a slam. Just with the quiet weight of someone who'd finally had enough. Afterward, I sat on the couch, the same one where we used to eat Thai food, where her feet used to rest in my lap, and stared at the blank TV screen. The apartment felt bigger somehow. Emptier, sure. But also lighter. That night, I didn't reach for my phone. Didn't scroll through old texts or pictures. I just sat with the silence. Let it settle. In the days that followed, I took down the framed photos. Folded her shirts into a box. Found her favorite mug at the back of the drying rack and tucked it away. Each little act of removal wasn't bitterness, it was healing. Slow, quiet, painful healing. And through it all, one truth kept repeating in my mind. Trust was the first casualty. Love came after. Now, I don't know how long it'll take to feel whole again. But I know I'll get there. Because I'd rather be alone with honesty than loved with lies. And if you're reading this, if you've ever stood in the same place I did, I'll ask you what I still ask myself. What would you have done?